A bar in London, Ontario has come under fire for putting up these signs with messages that are being called racist. The billboard has drawn widespread criticism. More than 5,000 people signed a petition earlier this week calling for its removal. The bar owner refused to speak with CBC News, but recently changed the billboard with a message defending his actions. Well, incidents of racism are on the rise in several parts of the country, and police in Vancouver released some staggering new numbers in a report this week. It says there was an 8-fold increase on anti-Asian hate crimes in the city last year, from a dozen incidents in 2019 to 98 in 2020. Police say that spike in hate crimes coincided with the increase in the number of COVID-19 cases last spring. Well, my next guest has looked closely at these numbers. Queenie Choo helps new immigrants get settled here in Canada with a group called Success, and she joins us from Vancouver tonight to discuss. Hi, Queenie. Thanks so much for being with us here on Canada Tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit first, just your reaction when you see those numbers. They're quite staggering. Are you surprised? Are you concerned?
Very concerned. It's very disturbing, and absolutely is upsetting and unacceptable.
And we know, it's not just physical violence. We see the public comments. We showed those images of a sign that went up in London, Ontario at a bar. What impact does something like a sign have on people, on a group of people who are also concerned about violence towards them?
Well, absolutely, because those are powerful messages to influence the people, what they think about others and certain demographics. This is very, very critically important to address the issues right away.
We know that anti-Asian sentiment isn't new because of the pandemic. Of course, we've seen those numbers go up, but I know that I understand that it's something that you have also dealt with in your work in dealing with immigrants.
Absolutely. We fundamentally, embrace the values of diversity and inclusion in Canada to be a welcoming community and country. Racism should have no place in here.
Is there fear amongst your community that anti-Asian sentiment, not just in the form of hateful words and messages, but that it will escalate to violence?
We have already seen some of the violence happened. An elderly Asian man, 90 years old, got thrown to the ground from a convenience store. If that is not violence, what is it?
How important is it for people to also understand sort of the historic anti-Asian sentiment in Canada? This is not something that we're just looking at in recent years. This is something that goes back decades to systemic racism in Canada.
Well, fundamentally, even before COVID, there is a long history of racism. And certainly this needs to be addressed, not just a piecemeal, but sustainable effort needs to create for long-term impacts.
So what would you like to see for people who are watching? What can they do to address these issues?
Well, first of all, I'd like to call for the actions acknowledging and examining systemic racism across all institutions, including within government departments, education system, and healthcare, etc. And we've got to also look at the issues with evidence. So collection of race-based data in consultation with communities, and be open about why and what data is collected and how this is being used to make improvements are vitally important. And thirdly, I think it's important to create a supportive and safe environments and community to empower the community members to speak out and intervene against racism as they witness in the community. So support such as crisis counseling helplines, those experiencing racism and the long-term trauma from it.
All right, Queenie Choo in Vancouver tonight. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you for having me.